For many of you listening to the program, you have deep roots in agriculture. That's what you have in common.
With an uncanny ability to make his audience feel well represented and valued, coupled with a tireless effort to fine-tune his craft, over time, farmers, ranchers, and millions of consumers across the country have learned to sit up and pay attention to what Max Armstrong has to say.
Though those of us who've watched these markets for many years know how quickly harvest can advance.
As he reflects on the assignments that highlight his tremendous career, Max acknowledges some of his most memorable moments are the product of paying his dues and a steadfast commitment to his craft, but others resulted from preparation converging with opportunity, and he was in the right place at the right time for a historic meeting across the pond.
Well, it harkens back to the foot and mouth disease epidemic they had in the United Kingdom. And now it's been almost 20 years ago when that disease went through animal agriculture over there and just decimated their herds, their flocks. And they were burning the carcasses out in the countryside. And of course, it had a very chilling effect on tourism. Nobody was going over there, and it had an effect on the economies of the UK. So once they were getting this behind them, they wanted to welcome Americans back. Well, I took a cameraman over, working with the U.S. Embassy in Chicago, to do an interview with their agriculture minister and with some farmers out in the countryside. We get over there, and the woman calls me, and she says, "Mr. Armstrong, I have some news for you. You will not be meeting today with the Minister of Agriculture." Well, you can imagine my reaction, Christina. I'm thinking, I've come all of this distance. My cameraman and I have flown all of this distance to cover this story, to bring it back to our viewers in the United States. I won't even get an interview with the Minister of Agriculture. I was this close to that very strong reaction when she said, "You will see the minister this afternoon, though, as you guys go to 10 Downing Street." The 10 Downing Street. She said, yes, you'll be meeting with the minister there, with Tony Blair, and you'll have the chance to go in. The cameraman will have to stay outside, but you'll have the chance to go in. So there was that door, and my cameraman kept coming over to shoot through the door. He said, "I want to take a picture through there." And the Bobby would come over and slap him on the back with a baton. "You get away from here. You know, you're not allowed to shoot through the door." I think the Bobby slapped him a couple of times, and it was a wonderful experience. It was just a handful of media people there, meeting with the minister and hearing his opinions on a variety of things, including relationships with the United States. And he made it very clear that the country was open. Please come see us.
It's a message the nation's prime minister has been trying to send too.
The best way to help the countryside recover from the effects of foot and mouth on tourism is for people to visit the countryside. The countryside is open for business and for pleasure.
And next week, we'll visit with Tony Blair's agriculture minister here as we continue looking at that British agriculture disaster. We salute an Indiana church and a Pennsylvania tractor as U.S. Farm Report continues.
During his tenure as one of the main voices of American agriculture, Max originated broadcasts in 30 countries and every state in the U.S., gaining the career he always dreamed of. But loss is inevitable in life, and the untimely death of his dear friend and colleague, Bob Collins, the top-rated WGN morning show DJ, affected Max deeply.
Allison, to say that Bob Collins was popular is an understatement. He was huge. He had the kind of following that no other radio broadcaster in Chicago had.
He related so well to the people. I think they felt that they knew him. That he was with them 4 hours a day, 25 years or so.
The heart just went out of this station. I don't know another way. It's like we've got no inners right now.
You started just a few years after him at WGN, is that right?
Yeah, he had arrived there in the spring of 1974, and he was amazing. He was an amazing rock and roll jock. He was so quick and funny, and it was naturally funny. These weren't contrived bits. This isn't something that he sat at home and wrote, the night before. This was natural. It was spontaneous. It was right off the top of his head. He would talk about that on the air. "Got that daddy's tractor you stole down there?" "No, Bob, I bought it at their auction." Little old ladies would defend me because he was picking on me. Truly, they would call the station and tell the switchboard operator, "Tell Bob to leave Max alone." But the beautiful thing about it, Christina, and you can appreciate this endeared me, the new kid. This endeared me. It was kind of like a tacit approval for the new kid coming on board, because I was youngest at the station at that time by 9 years, and I thought I'd last 6 months. And having Bob pick on me really kind of brought me in as a part of what we called the WGN family. And people felt they were a part of your family. Personal events, family events, everybody knew about it. Right there in the studio, the morning that he passed away, it was 5 minutes after 8. He didn't know the name of the pilot who had flown me. He said, was he a good pilot? And I said, yeah. He was safe. You felt safe? Yeah. That was the last conversation. Later on that afternoon was when he and another plane collided over the northern suburbs of Chicago. A passenger with him, all three of them died in the crash. It was a very memorable week, a dark week. There were pennants hanging on Michigan Avenue in Chicago. And Bobby was such a part of our lives. Those pennants said, "There are no words. There are no words." And there was a lot of truth to that.
After growing up on a farm in southern Indiana, in 1970, Max Armstrong began his storied broadcast career when he was just a teenager. By the time he was in his 20s, he was in the full swing of success, working for powerhouse station WGN Chicago. As his career continued, with hard work and a commitment to accurately telling the story of agriculture, he solidified himself as a trusted voice for American farmers and ranchers. Today, he is one of the most highly regarded ag journalists in the world.
Oriented has been one of the more high-profile market access stories for U.S. farmers trying to bring their product to the people here in Japan.
After decades of covering the first-hand setbacks that farmers face alongside Washington policy, Max has acquired a wealth of wisdom on how to bolster the industry to benefit producers and who to reach in the nation's capital to help get the job done.
It's always been a high-pressure business. It's always been intense, but I don't think it's ever been more competitive than it is now. You know, and I think a young farmer has this sort of drilled into them, understandably so. This is their business, but quite often they are told, you have 40 seasons. That's it. From the time you start planting, generally, through the life of the farmer, you've got 40 opportunities to plant that crop. You know that if you wait too long, if you get past the middle part of May through the heart of the Midwest, you're going to miss that yield opportunity. You get into May 20th, 22nd, you're trimming the yield potential of that crop. You're trimming your family's income potentially. Then there's the pressure of marketing.
But how hard is it to be a farmer when you have no control over these commodity prices and they go down so low? I mean, how much harder does that make the job?
It's very difficult. When we go through those periods of low profitability, or 7 years of difficult profitability, for example, in the ag sector, it makes that producer lean and mean, to be sure. You've got to really tighten down on all of your expenses. There have to be those very difficult discussions over the kitchen table about family living expenses. When prices are low and income is lean, those belt tightening procedures aren't only happening out in the machine shed, they're happening in the family.